I was 17 years old and had never been on a spring break, so I exploded with excitement when my parents broke me the great news that I would accompany my older brother Mark on a 5-day trip from Pittsburgh to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. While Mark seemed happy to take me, I suspect it was more of a mandate from my parents that I was going with him or he wasn't going at all. The trip down was uneventful. Mark did most of the driving and only let me drive when he was so exhausted he couldn't keep his eyes open. These were the days before satellite radio. There were long stretches of static in between cities. It seemed like Staying Alive from the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack and Copacabana by Barry Manilow were being played non-stop. I passed the dead time by daydreaming about coming out of my shell and meeting hot college girls at all of those Fort Lauderdale spring break wet t-shirt contests I'd read about. When we arrived, it dawned on me that we didn't have a place to stay. I frankly had never given it any thought and assumed Mark had taken care of it. These were the days when the Fort Lauderdale beachfront along Route 1 was a collection of small mom-and-pop motels. We drove around till we found a vacancy at $18.99 a night. The first night, Mark told me he was going to a club called Babies, the hottest wet t-shirt party spot in Fort Lauderdale. Wet t-shirts? I'm in. Take me with you. Mark, who was 18 and able to get into the clubs, looked at my ID and said, "Brian, that's the worst fake ID I've ever seen. You're not getting in. Here's 20 bucks, go have a blast." For 3 days, Mark hit the clubs, came back and slept, while I walked on the beach, ate Burger King Whoppers, and played pinball. Not quite the babe-scoping high school reject redeeming time I fantasized about. It was finally time to leave the 80-degree sunny skies and palm trees and head back to the 5-degree concrete winters of Pittsburgh. We vowed we wouldn't stop except to eat and use the bathroom. We hit the North Carolina-Virginia border about 3 a.m. and pulled into a gas station. No one came out to help, so we helped ourselves. This was before the era of self-serve. We filled up the tank, but still no attendant. I walked to the door, and there's the attendant, head back in his chair, snoring, sound asleep. Mark and I looked at each other, tiptoed back to the caddy, and beelined it across the border into Virginia, terrified of being arrested. When we hit Maryland, Mark let me drive. The roads were covered with snow. Whomp! The car tilts to the right. The jolt wakes Mark up. We have a flat, Bri. No, we don't, Mark. I keep driving. Blah, 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 blah. Bri, we have a flat. I pull over. He gets out into the freezing weather and changes the flat. We get back in and beeline back to Pittsburgh, wondering if there was a cop on her tail. There was no further incident, but I'll tell you what, those 5 days of holiday roads with my brother, I'll never forget.